when I saw this name Shakereh, I said, oh, this is that case. And मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो गए थे, and I said, I have to watch because nothing like that had ever happened. It was inexplicable.
The most horrifying thing for me was where he's writing those numbers.
Oh, it's quite crazy.
Did you feel that his eyes were
Oh,
piercing?
yes, yes, yes.
और वो जो दफन करने का जो प्रोसेस है वो ऐसा है कि आपके रोंगटे खड़े हो सकते हैं.
आशु जी वो जिंदा थी आशु जी.
You wouldn't want your enemy to go through something like this.
The only prayer she got was her own voice.
ये जो साइलेंस और पॉज था ना, ऐसा ही पॉज था जब वो सीरीज खत्म हुआ और मैं चुप करके देख रहा था.
Yeah. Damn.
You're listening to Dime a Dozen Films podcast.
नमस्कार, आदाब, हेलो एवरीबॉडी, सत श्री अकाल आप सबको, अपने लिसनर्स को, आशु जी को, सौरभ जी को, एंड वेलकम बैक टू अनदर पॉडकास्ट ऑफ डाइम अ डजन फिल्म्स. आज का जो टॉपिक है थोड़ा सा ग्रेव और थोड़ा सा सीरियस है. हमने सोचा कि हम इसके बारे में बात करना चाहते हैं और आई होप हमारे लिसनर्स को भी इंटरेस्ट होगा इसमें. So before further ado and before I speak for too long, I will just hand over the mic to Ashuji because he will tell us what we are going to speak about today. Over to you, Ashuji.
So first of all, hello to all the listeners. Hope you all have had a great week. And yes, we are going to talk about something very, very interesting. And before I get into that, I do not want to steal the thunder out of Saurabh. Saurabh has still not given his greetings and I'm looking forward. Saurabh, how are you?
Hi everyone. Hi Nalini ji. Hi Ashu ji.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
So मैं आप लोग मैं काफी सीरियस होकर बैठा क्योंकि आज का टॉपिक काफी सीरियस है, इसलिए मैं गंभीर होकर ऐसा बैठा था, इसलिए मैंने ग्रीट करने में थोड़ा वक्त मैंने लिया.
गंभीर हो ना, गमगीन नहीं हो ना?
नहीं नहीं, मैं गंभीर हूँ.
चलो,
ये कभी गमगीन नहीं होता जहां तक मेरी मेमोरी है.
तो आज जो हम लोग जिस चीज के ऊपर बात करने वाले हैं वो है डांसिंग ऑन द ग्रेव. ये कुछ एक ऐसी सच्ची घटना घटी थी बैंगलोर में, जिसके बारे में नलिनी जी भी ज्यादा बताएंगी बिकॉज उस वक्त नलिनी जी वहां पे बैंगलोर में रहा करती थी और सौरभ आज भी बैंगलोर में रहता है और उसको वो उन जगहों से वाकिफ होगा. ही वुड नो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग. बट मैं सही मायने में बताऊं तो ये डांसिंग ऑन द ग्रेव का मेरे को मुझे रिकमेंडेशन किया था नलिनी जी ने. मैंने जब ये देखा मैं स्तब्ध रह गया था. आई वॉज कंप्लीटली डम्फाउंडेड. मैंने रियलाइज भी नहीं किया कि एंड के रोलिंग क्रेडिट्स शुरू हो चुके हैं और मैं सिर्फ स्क्रीन को देखता रहा क्योंकि इतना ज्यादा इस कहानी का असर, कहानी खैर इसको कहानी तो बोलनी नहीं चाहिए, ये वाक्य हुआ है, इतना इसका असर रहा मुझ पर देखने के बाद कि आई वॉज कंप्लीटली डम्फाउंडेड. I didn't know what to do. So today we are going to talk about documentaries and docu-series. And this one, although it does come under the category of a documentary because there are lots of real people who have come and spoken about it and given interviews of what has happened at that point of time, I still, categorize this as docu-drama because there are lots of real events that have been dramatized. So there are actors and there are characters who have played that sequence or that event of time in that timeline to communicate with the audience on what must have happened at that time. So it's not a purely documentary series. This is a docudrama. But to give you a little more about what Dancing on the Grave is, I think I should pass this on to Nalini ji because she was quite present at that point of time when this happened over there. So Nalini ji, please take it forward.
Yes, thank you, Ashuji. Okay, the thing is that today we thought we'd speak about this. I was just surfing. I didn't know what to watch. I was looking for content and I was on the streaming platform and I saw this name, Shakereh. And when I saw the name Shakereh and I saw that face, I said, oh my goodness, I know something about this woman. I did not know her personally, of course. And soon after this incident happened, a couple of years after, I had moved to Bangalore And it was so fresh in everybody's minds. My in-laws, the in-laws' extended family, the club where we used to go. In fact, where they have shot this docu-series is Bowring Institute, which used to be the club, which was our family club in the sense. We used to go to that club. So when I saw this name Shakereh, I said, oh, this is that case. And mere rongte khade ho gaye the. And I said, I have to watch, because we know what happened, because I had also gone to that place. It's called 81 Richmond Road. And I used to work a lot in Richmond Town. I was required to be in Richmond Town a lot of the times, you know. And when this case broke out, of course, on the year that they discovered what had happened to her, I was not there, but it was fresh. So, and it was stunning for everybody and for years together. In fact, today also, I'm sure people talk about it, because nothing like that had ever happened. It was inexplicable that how this lady got caught in the wily machinations of a Swami, so-called quote unquote Swami. So for me, it was very shocking, but that's why I watched it. And after watching it, I requested Ashuji to watch it as well. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this later.
And then the two of us urged, implored, or even sort of came down heavily on Saurabh ki you must watch it because we need to do a podcast on this. I think under the influence of our both of us, Saurabh ended up watching it. So Saurabh, your comments?
हाँ, मैं किसी का भाई किसी की जान ना देखने वाला था, एंड देन नलिनी जी एंड आशु जी सेड दैट की डांसिंग ऑन द ग्रेव देखिए। हाँ, तो ये मेरी घर के पास ही में रिचमंड टाउन, लाइक ज्यादा दूर नहीं है, आई थिंक मे बी 5-6 किलोमीटर्स। आई हैव बीन टू दैट प्लेस। आई नो अबाउट दिस केस, बट वो डिटेलिंग में मुझे इसके बारे में ज्यादा पता नहीं था, जो मुझे इस डॉक्यूमेंट्री के वजह से पता चला। सो या, दिस डॉक्यूमेंट्री इज क्वाइट इंट्रीगिंग, but I have some complaints and some questions regarding this documentary. Though it, like, overall it was intriguing, but there are many underwhelming aspects also in the documentary, जिसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे।
बिल्कुल बात करना चाहिए।
तो नलिनी जी,
जी
ये जो नाम है शकीरे नमाजी,
जी,
ये जब मैंने पहली बार नाम सुना शकीरे नमाजी, मुझे ऐसा लगा बहुत ईरानियन डिसेंट सा नाम दिखता है इसमें। were the people who came from Iran, or because Shakereh Namazie is not a name which you can easily sort of find in India?
Yeah, they don't say that, you know. I don't know if I'll have to now, of course, my in-laws are not in this world anymore, but she was the granddaughter of the Diwan of Mysore. His name is Sir Mirza Ismail or something. And very celebrated family. And so originally, and if you've seen, obviously you've seen the documentary, those two ladies from her family, they correctly look as if they've come from Iran, you know. The features, they are so different. They're so stunningly beautiful. They look very Iranian. So I don't know, but she's the granddaughter of this Nawab, and also connected to politics, diplomacy for that matter. Her husband was very well known and very well respected in the city of Bangalore, though he was hardly there, you know, which they have shown that in the documentary, that because he was a diplomat, he was traveling. But, you know, Ashuji, after watching the documentary, even though I know about the case and everything, one thing did strike me, that diplomats do take their wives, no? They take their wives, but for some reason he did not. When he was sent to Iran, she didn't go with him. She wasn't sent with him, or she didn't choose to go with him. That part is still a mystery for me as to why she was so lonely. And the people in Bangalore, when they used to talk about this, all of them, you know, well, she was shunned and she was ostracized and everything, but nobody has any answers to that. And the documentary doesn't throw up that answer either.
Yeah, I think, you know, it probably could be the loneliness that must have got them into the proximity of the new man in her life, who she chose to spend the rest of the life with. Shraddhanand Swami, I think, I forget his name was Murli Manohar Mishra.
Yeah.
So, very ordinary looking person, like the docu-series also says. There's a huge difference. It's like a gulf between the erstwhile husband that Shakereh had, as opposed to what this person looked like, his presentation, the way he spoke, his communication skills, his English, everything lacked just about everything uh, that one could find attractive in a husband or a man. So it left me, it left me shocked. How does a woman confide or trust or fall into a relationship with a man that is not as presentable as she was with or she must have grown up with? Because the rest of the family that were interviewed, whether it's the cousin brother, whether it's the auntie, even her mother, Shakereh's mother,
Yes,
even
and
her daughter,
the nephew who's still there very much in Bangalore.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
they're so regal, they're so right up there in terms of the communication skills and presentation, that it really shocks you how a Shakereh Namazie could have gone or fallen for Murli Manohar Mishra.
You know, Ashuji, when I was there, the questions people used to ask, which of course the documentary has not given any answers for, was that first of all, she was married off very early. I think she was 18 or 19, and her husband was her first cousin. And of course, very, very wealthy people. And apparently, the gossip around that time, I don't want to gossip about somebody who's gone, but the gossip around that time was that she was never really happy. And also, I don't know if it was the husband, but I can't remember now. The documentary saying that it was she, but she had 4 daughters, and apparently she wanted a son. But there were other problems in the marriage. But still, there in Bangalore, people, when they talk about it, uh, they don't justify what she did. So, to just give a little brief to the listeners who are listening to this podcast and must be wondering what we're talking about, um, I think true crime stories and dramas is also a matter of interest. And since documentaries are made on true crime, this is one such which has happened very close to us. And I would recommend people watching it. I don't want to give out any spoilers, but for those who haven't seen the documentary and for all our listeners, in the course of our conversation, if some spoilers do slip out, please do excuse us, listeners, because the subject is such that there are bound to be some spoilers. What exactly happened to this lady? It was extremely tragic and quite unbelievable. And it shattered everything. And also, this case becomes important because from what they say is that this was the first case where DNA evidence was used to
Nail
verify.
Murli Manohar Mishra?
No, DNA evidence to determine that that was her body, which they exhumed. Yeah, that was the first time in a case in India that was used. But I'm going to go to Saurabh, and he has lots of questions. And Saurabh, please do go ahead with your questions.
So true crime docu-series always fascinates me. That's why this show intrigued me. I have seen the trailer and then I got to know what's in this show, what's the premise. So that even more intrigued me. मुझे अच्छी लगी, like अच्छी in the sense it was interesting. Like it was I felt like I was watching an edge of a seat thriller, and it was happening in the place where I live. So उस जगह में घटना घटी. So वो और मुझे इंट्रिग किया. तो या मगर उसमें बहुत सारे चीजें मुझे थोड़ी अजीब लगी, जैसे कि आई थिंक लाइक इन द थर्ड एपिसोड वेर मुरली मनोहर मिश्रा जो है स्वामी जी, उन पे एक पूरा डेडिकेटेड एपिसोड है. देयर आई वाज लाइक अरे यार, this like I understood what the makers were trying to do. They were just giving the perception from the, like perspective of this guy who is an accused. So I got that, but it was too much. Like his stories were not at all convincing. It was a big lie, I felt. और एक पॉइंट में मुझे लगा कि अरे भाई बंद करो यार, इसका नहीं सुनना दुखी कहानी, मुझे इसको हटाओ. And final nail in the coffin was that cat scene.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. What was he trying to do? Be the godfather? I found that offensive, actually. And then he treats that cat badly, and then he lifts that cat and is petting it. That was a very...
No, 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 no.
Then?
In the end, he says, "ये क्या शकीरे की आत्मा है इसमें?"
Oh, yes, that's horrible. And then also when they show him, the stunning part where he showed only very little emotion, but something, a flicker of emotion was there when they played her real voice. Remember? For him,
Yeah.
That was the most haunting part.
yeah, that was haunting. And I was looking at his face, and because the whole screen is his face only, and there was a flicker of emotion, but apart from that, there was absolutely no emotion. Even in the end, when they come and show him that tree which has grown in 81 Richmond Road, and he laughs and he says, "Are, ye wo hai kya?" And then he looks at that tree, and he's laughing and he's saying, "Itna bada ped ho gaya, ye to main," something like, "I can't even recognize the place," or something, So absolutely cold-blooded person. And for me, Saurabh, from all the questions, I wonder if you felt the same, and Ashuji, you. So this unfortunate lady, Shakereh, met him for the first time in some princess's house, which was not even in Bangalore. I forget the city. So that princess was never called for the documentary. She was never interrogated as to what part this Swami, so-called Swami, was playing, because it's the princess who actually sends him to Bangalore to look after this lady's property. But the documentary guys and the director, Patrick Graham and all, they didn't go and find her and ask her. I felt that was missing. Plus, I felt that none of her daughters, with the acceptance of Sabah, none of them were even there or asked. Or, we were talking about how in families problems happen, but when you ostracize somebody and you completely get out of touch, and then you hear something like this, it's scary, because nobody but nobody except for this one daughter had been in touch with her.
So if you see the docu series, even the documentaries also use this pattern, 3-act structure. There's like every story has a beginning, a middle, and end. And even in documentary also there is a hero's journey. So in this documentary, Sabah is the main protagonist. We see the story through her. Like the story, not the story, I mean the docu series starts with Sabah. She goes to this police station, she complains. Even the police officer also says that अगर वो मुझे डांटती नहीं तो हम लोग कभी ये केस सॉल्व नहीं करते.
Yeah.
So the unraveling of the plot over here also, in terms of this is a plot as to what has happened, what's the conspiracy, what is it that happened behind, because Shakereh was missing for almost 3 years, and the daughter was insistent on wanting to know where her mother is, and Murli Manohar Mishra kept on lying to her, saying that she's gone out of the country, she's not going to come back, and it just kept on raising the suspicion. And आई थिंक वो जो उबाल है वो निकला फिर आईपीएस ऑफिसर के ऊपर, जिसके ऊपर से इंटेरोगेशन शुरू हुआ. एंड यू राइट नलिनी जी, बिकॉज मुझे भी ये लगा था कि 4 बेटियां थी, उन 4 बेटियों में सिर्फ एक ही इंसान था जो कैमरा के सामने आकर के उसने इंटरव्यू दिया. बाकियों ने उसकी अपनी माँ के बारे में कुछ बोला ही नहीं, बात ही नहीं
और
की.
बाकी सबा की बहनें जो थी वो उन्होंने कभी शकीरे के साथ कांटेक्ट नहीं किया या उनके साथ बात करती थी क्या फोन में, इसका भी कभी जिक्र नहीं हुआ है डॉक्यूमेंट्री में.
नहीं हुआ.
बिल्कुल. और एक्चुअली डॉक्यूमेंट्री से जो मुझे समझ में आया था कि वो उन बाकियों ने तो बात ही नहीं किया था. बाकी फैमिली ने तो उनको अलग ही कर दिया था because of what she did. She changed her religion. She's a Muslim lady who married this Hindu man, and what they held against her was the fact that that her husband, when he came back from one of his diplomatic journeys, she immediately divorced him. And within 6 months, she married this horrible man. And they seemed to be happy for a few years. And I was looking back into what people were talking about this, and then the documentary has covered that, is that the only thing that I think, जो लालच आप कहते हैं ना, इंसानी लालच जो होता है ना, कि किसी के गिरफ्त में आप आ जाओ, किसी के इन्फ्लुएंस में आप आ जाओ, तो मुझे लगता है, और उस वक्त भी गॉसिप मॉन्गर्स जो होते हैं वो बोल रहे थे बैंगलोर में कि इसको बेटा चाहिए था शकीरे को. And in the documentary they have touched upon this fact that this man had promised her a son. And probably that is one of the reasons, apart from the most inexplicable reasons, because for me it's inexplicable. We may sound a little racist or casteist or whatever when we are comparing a really, I'm sorry to say, but a horrific, an apology for a human being kind of a man, but he also does not look very appealing. And how could this woman who had everything, and she was rich, she had properties, so why did she, sever all her ties with the rest of her family? Forget the husband. She severed her ties with, almost severed her ties with her daughters as well, because it was only one girl who was talking to her. So that's inexplicable, because उसमें यही होता है कि ये जो स्वामी जीज होते हैं और ये जो so called godmen होते हैं, ये इतना influence रखते हैं, and this is a big lesson to all of us. Of course, I can't stand them, and there's no way that one would ever think that you would be in a situation like this. But for people who come under their influence, and there are so many such cases. There was a case in Delhi when I was living in Delhi, in Nizamuddin, same kind of case. Uh, it's quite crazy. And one thing in the documentary they've said, which is true, that when this case was unearthed, it was actually called Dancing on the Grave.
Yeah, that is the reason also, because what happened was, for you to say that he's a Swamiji, and for a Swami, so that's why I've never called him Swami Shraddhanand or whatever that his name is. I've always said Murli Manohar Mishra, simply because that's the name that he deserves to be called with. But also, for a Swami or a Godman, if you want to call him a Godman per se, that image gets shattered immediately when you realize that here is a man who's partied with women and danced with them.
On her grave.
And you wonder, on the grave,
yeah.
And you wonder, does a godman dance like to a party music with women and men and wine and all drinking all around? It just shocks you. But the crime itself is so graphic.
Yeah.
The planning of the crime is so hair-raising, and the way that woman passed away shudders. You shudder by imagining what must have happened at that point of time, and then to recreate that and to pass on that emotion to the viewer. And that is why I felt, although this is not fiction, this is a non-fiction, and yet it holds on to your attention so brilliantly, because you want to know what is happening next. So the unraveling of the entire episode, one episode after another to another, is done so brilliantly. I'm now talking from the making point of view also, by trying to tell the audiences the story. Like, for example, when this one, Saurabh said that, there's an entire episode which is on Murli Manohar Mishra. The first two episodes, they covered the victim, the victim's family, the victim's journey, the way she got into a relationship with this man, and what led to this. That it would have been only unbiased and justified from the filmmaker point of view to give that length of time to the antagonist, who in this case is Murli Manohar Mishra. Now, Saurabh, I can promise you, the episodes are all 30-35 minutes. And in 30-35 minutes, you feel that ये बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. ये अगर 15 मिनट भी होता ना तो भी बहुत ज़्यादा लगता, because by then you're so attached to the victim and the victim's family that you don't want to see so much about the antagonist in a way that they have sort of depicted.
The most horrifying thing for me was that second episode where he's writing those numbers. Floor पे number लिखता है.
Oh, God.
That is terrifying,
Oh,
man.
God. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, God. And Saurabh, the kind of influence this horrible monster would have had on those servants, no? To actually do what they did, make him that box. Everyone knew, that guy knew कि इसमें इस box में क्या डलने वाला है.
And that's the box with a wheel.
Yeah. And they helped him stretch it out and put it out there. And you're so right. And there's absolutely no emotion on his face. Of course, it's a real video that they've shown in the documentary. It's actually one of the first cases. Yeah, that's the other thing. This is one of the first cases where they had DNA. And this is one of the first cases where the actual footage of this man showing where the body was buried He's drawing with a chalk, and he knows, like Saurabh is saying, he has named all those tiles, and he's just there, and they're digging, and he's just there. It's absolutely no remorse, and he wants
And
us
one more
yeah.
thing is he has the key with him.
Yeah, that is very interesting. You and Ashuji, please talk about that, because I have something to say about that, but Ashuji also said something, and his lawyer said something about that. Please, yes, go ahead.
So what happens is, according to his lawyer, and I sort of see that point, his lawyer says that anything that is sort of seen or accumulated or collected or picked up from the site of crime is generally sealed. And that sealed portion is always with the police. And they will never give it to the victim till it is actually necessary. And in the video timeline, you see this man walking up to the door of the house, taking out the key from his own pocket, and then opening the lock. How the hell did he get the key? That was something that was questionable to me. The other question, which the defense lawyer also stated, and I completely agree with that. And I wonder why he couldn't impress upon the courts to sort of understand this, where they said they found drugs through which he must have given or intoxicated Shakereh. They found pills or whatever. And I'm wondering to myself, at the same time, they're saying that it was an extremely well planned murder. It was an extremely well planned and thought out strategy on what to do with her. For somebody who's done this so well planned, how can he leave traces after 3 years also? How can there be pills or medicines or anything that is related to sort of poisoning her be left in the house? Nobody will do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, you're right. But before Saurabh comes in on that key issue, I just wanted to ask you, because I may have forgotten, when they were actually showing this documentary and this issue came up about the key, the main, and by the way, he was a cop when I was there. He was when I was in Bangalore. The South Indian name, I forget his name, but very famous guy. So when this key thing came up, he did say, didn't he say in one line that वो बिकॉज ये जो मुरली के हाथ, एक हाथ तो बंधा हुआ है, उसके पीछे एक और आदमी है जिन दोनों के हाथ साथ में बंधे हुए हैं, और फिर वो चाबी निकालता है, तो पीछे से डॉक्यूमेंट्री में इस पुलिस ऑफिसर ने कहा है शायद कि मेरे आदमी ने वहां पहुंचने, दरवाजे तक पहुंचने से पहले उसको चाबी दे दी थी। तो उसको चाबी दी थी पुलिस वालों ने। ये शुरू, मतलब जब ये जेल गया, ऐसा नहीं है कि उसके पास हमेशा से
क्या है कि अगर चाबी दी है, एटलीस्ट वीडियो के टाइमलाइन में पता चलता है ना कि किसी पाउच से निकाल के, किसी सील को निकाल करके आपने चाबी दी है। आप वो सील या पाउच जो है वो पुलिस स्टेशन से तो निकाल के नहीं आएंगे, और अगर आपके पास चाबी पहले से इस तरीके से पड़ी, लीव्स अ क्वेश्चन इन योर माइंड that if the keys are there with the cops before, did they have the opportunity to enter the house even before this accused was brought to the doorstep? Did the police have the opportunity to enter in and out? It just is a questionable thing. I'm
Yes,
not saying it's...
Of course, but they would have gone for forensic, na? They went for forensic. They would have definitely entered that house without him being in tow.
अगर वीडियो में दिखाते हैं कि ही इज ओपनिंग विद द की, सो वो की उसके पास ऑलरेडी था कि पुलिस ने दिया उसको?
हाँ, वो मैं कह रही हूँ ना कि डॉक्यूमेंट्री में शायद एक लाइन है सौरभ, अगर मेरी याददाश्त सही है, तो डॉक्यूमेंट्री में वो पुलिस वाला बोल रहा है कि पुलिस वाले के आदमी ने उसके हाथ में चाबी दी थी उसको रखने के लिए कि वो दरवाजा भी खोलने वाला है, ऐसा कुछ लाइन है डॉक्यूमेंट्री में। But
because in the video footage he's opening the door with
exactly,
the key.
he's only opening. The cops are not opening. That is the strange part. That why are they letting him open it? The cops should have gone before him and opened.
I think because वो video ले रहे हैं, तो they wanted to show that he has the key with him.
नहीं, it is not because of that. The other thing which I can't remember or I can't fathom is वो दवाइयां अंदर क्यों रखी हुई थी इतनी देर के लिए? बोल, हमको दवाइयों के ट्रेसेस मिले अंदर, मतलब कौन रखेगा दवाइयां? मतलब कोई nobody in their sane mind will hold on to the medicines or pills or whatever that they had for such a long time. It's not 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 week, 1 year, 2 years. It was 3 years. 3 साल तक।
अगर वहां मिली भी होंगी आशुजी, तो वो पुलिस as evidence should have taken them na. They can't just leave it in the house. That was silly. Yeah, you're right, absolutely. And it's only on the basis of these two things that he had a defense lawyer who was so. And also the third thing that the defense lawyer had which of course is a murky part of the story, which till today is murky. Okay. There were a lot of property angles to this. Okay. She had a lot of cases on her, and because of property. And the mother had put 2 cases on her, some other, I don't know, aunts or whatever, there were cases on her. And I have a feeling that that princess over there, in whose house she met this horrible man, also knew about it, because obviously she was a friend. And that is the reason she has sent this man to her in Bangalore, that go there and help her with her property matters, because she was already fighting cases, because she had decided to divorce her Khaleeli, her husband. So she had cases. So now what the defense lawyer is also saying is that there was an opportunity for the family members because of property, and they've quickly, they've skimmed over it. They haven't gone to the depth of that, that they had opportunity to do away with her as well. Of course, I don't believe that they did away with her, but the fact that she was done away with, and she, even after her, she didn't get a funeral, she didn't get a namaz, she got nothing. I mean, it's that amount of hatred against this poor woman, and nobody deserves that.
One more thing, if you see, that is the main question I had while watching the documentary is, कि उन्होंने, the parents of Shakereh, they also filed a case.
Yes, I told you, no, the mother filed a case. Yeah, 2 cases.
वो भी उन्होंने डॉक्यूमेंट्री में दिखाया नहीं.
नहीं, बताया है, उसके बारे में बताया है.
डिटेल में नहीं बताया from the point of view of parents.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm saying. They skimmed over that. No, they didn't go in detail. They should have gone in a little more detail as to what were these property issues. They haven't. They've skimmed over in the documentary also, almost as if they don't want to talk about it. That's the feeling that.
One thing the Vakil says in the documentary about that mining act.
हाँ.
That अगर एक प्लॉट लिया है और बहुत सारे प्लॉट आपने छोड़ दिया तो वो गवर्नमेंट ले जाती है
जी.
That's why this guy मुरली मनोहर उसने वो प्लॉट्स बेच दी
जी.
तो that was interesting because I didn't know about this act.
जी. और वो सिर्फ बीच में जहाँ पे उसने इसको दफन किया था, बीच वाला उसने रखा, राइट, और उसने सारे वहां के वो बेच दिए थे. और
that was pre-planned murder.
Of course, because वो खुद कहता है ना, जब अपने कन्फेशन में या जो भी है, उसने कहा था ना कि बहुत हो गया था. ये बहुत सवाल पूछ रही थी मुझसे कि पावर ऑफ अटर्नी देने के बाद she had started asking him questions, because now see, that's another thing which doesn't make sense. Now Ashuji, legally I don't know anything, but can you just take over power of attorney? I know there are movies made on this, one of them being Bazigar, but the thing is that खुद ही कैसे तुम ले सकते हो? कोई वहां खड़ा रहेगा और तुमको power of attorney देगा ना. इसमें तो ऐसे लग रहा है कि Shakereh has not given him the power of attorney, or he somehow slimed it out of her, and then she's questioning him that what have you done with the properties? Why have you done? Why are you spending so much money and all? So I don't know how that works.
I think power of attorney Shakereh ने दिया होगा, मगर उसका उसने misuse किया.
Of course.
So that she was questioning.
Yes. Okay. So उसी ने दिया होगा. तो ये वही तो है ना, आज तक वो लोग बोलते हैं कि कैसे वो ये डिसीजन ले सकती थी. अब किसी के समझ, सब किसी के भी समझ, जो भी आप देखोगे लिसनर्स, अगर ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री भी देखेंगे, there are no answers, there are only questions and a feeling of dread and horror at what can happen to you.
And one more thing which you folks were telling कि ये मतलब ऐसा दिखने में ऐसा है और and she is very well sophisticated and all. One interesting thing Sabah says in the documentary, like कि he was very sweet. वो जब बात करते बहुत sweet, but he's over sweet.
Dripping sugar. Yeah. And you know, that's the other thing. The Sabah was also quite friendly with him, you know, as of her foster father. There was no animosity at all. If you look at the photographs they've shown, you know, it's all so weird, because she was also happy that, okay, fine, my mother is happy, and she's putting her arm around this horrible chap, and there are enough photographs, and then she goes and meets and she calls every day, and she doesn't find
Namazie, even that niece says कि before she was missing, she called him, और वो जब घर गया तो this guy shooed him off.
Yes.
And closed the door.
He even said, you can't come here. Who gave you permission? He says, I've come to see my aunt. And he says, no, you can't enter this place without permission. So what permission? Who do you have to take permission from? Because maybe by then she had already gone to that Ashok Nagar police station to lodge a complaint or whatever. But
So this may raise a lot of questions, and there is a lot of other stuff, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the docu-series itself is very fascinating. The tale that has happened over there is enigmatic to a large extent, and you wouldn't want your enemy to go through something like this.
oh yeah,
it is so heart wrenching that that entire वो जो दफन करने का जो प्रोसेस है वो ऐसा है कि आपके रोंगटे खड़े हो सकते हैं।
आशु जी वो जिंदा थी आशु जी।
मैं वही तो बोल रहा हूँ कि ये चीजें जो हैं, आपने एक इंसान के साथ, एक जीते जागते इंसान के साथ आप इस तरीके की चीजें सोच सकते हो। आपके अंदर कितना जहर या कितनी हैवानियत होगी जो आप ऐसा करते हो, और वो कितना काम भी एंड में बोलता है कि मैंने नहीं मारा है, मेरे से वो जबरदस्ती कन्फेशन लिया गया है, मैंने नहीं मारा है। इट इज उसकी आंखों में रिग्रेट नहीं दिखता है। वो बोलता है मैं अभी भी अपनी बीवी से प्यार करता हूँ, मैं अभी भी उसकी आवाज जो है आती है मुझे, मतलब लेकिन फिर भी कन्विंसिंग नहीं लगता। तो जज जब बोलता है कि उसकी शक्ल से उसकी नीयत जो है झलकती है, वो मुझे लगता है जज बहुत करेक्ट बोलता है कि उसकी शक्ल से उसकी आंखों से उसकी नीयत झलकती है, वो रिग्रेटफुल रिमोर्सफुल नहीं है।
मुरली मनोहर सेज कि बच्चा हुआ था,
हाँ
प्री मैच्योर चाइल्ड,
how you
उसका
did you
कोई
read my
डिटेलिंग नहीं है।
thoughts?
अरे हॉस्पिटल में आप गए होंगे ना, उसका तो कुछ डिटेल होगा आपके पास।
नहीं, did you read my thoughts just now, Saurabh? Because I was going to speak about the बच्चा. I think you read my thoughts. हाँ, इन लोगों ने investigate नहीं किया उस बच्चे का, सिर्फ they've taken his word for it that she did have a boy and the boy didn't survive. Is that what you were trying to say, Saurabh? That the people who made the documentary didn't go to the hospital to check?
Yeah, they should have taken some details. No, even when this case is happening, he would have told this on the court also, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What I think is he said this because he wanted to show his masculinity, that I was not good for nothing. I did something, I guess. So that's why he said this.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
But never in my life will I understand. I don't know. It's beyond my understanding how. But you know, love has no answers. Love has no logic. But मुझे नहीं पता कैसे इन दोनों की जोड़ी किस एंगल से एक जोड़ी भी बनी है.
So I would like to actually end this whole episode in a different form of a question per se. You know, where even now when we scan through all our OTT material, which is on the desktop, whether it is on whether you watch it on Netflix or whether you watch it on Amazon or on Z or Hotstar or HBO or whatever, you find a plethora of information which is basically targeting entertainment, चाहे वो series हो, चाहे वो film हो, किसी भी language में हो. It's all about, it could be based on crime, it could be based on other forms of entertainment. But there's a very short segment on documentaries, on real life documentaries that have happened. I see a lot of documentaries and I really love watching them because they've been told brilliantly. But I would like to know from your point of view, why is it that documentaries are lesser acceptable or consumed as opposed to the general entertainment that one tends to watch?
I don't know. Before Saurabh comes in, all I like to say is that I have seen quite a few true crime documentaries and other documentaries, nature-based documentaries, but not as much as I should, I guess. But if something and wildlife documentaries, and I find them lovely. But the true crime, I saw that one about that case in Delhi, which also, again, my goodness me, all those 11 people, they took their own lives in one family. But I'll tell you why. This is my thinking, and Saurabh will come in and talk because I think he watches a lot more documentaries. Ashuji, documentaries sometimes are not well made. They don't hold your interest. Like in this Dancing on the Grave itself, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's because I know this story, because I happen to be in the city where it happened, soon after it happened, and everybody, that's why it raised my interest. And I went and I watched it and I was flabbergasted. But of course, I knew what had happened to this lady. We all knew. But otherwise, documentaries to hold our interest, they have to be well made. They can't, it's like when I'm watching documentaries, if something is happening interesting and I'm looking and I want to know the end of it, they cut and they go someplace else. For me, that's my thing about documentaries. Saurabh, over to you.
I think people have this mentality कि documentaries बहुत boring होती हैं, इसलिए जब कोई रियलिस्टिक फिल्म भी देखता है तो बोलता है कि अरे इतना रियल क्यों दिखा रहा है, हम लोग को डॉक्यूमेंट्री दिखा रहा है क्या. सो
हाँ,
दे हैव दिस मेंटालिटी कि डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज बोरिंग होती है, बट डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज अगर अच्छी बनी
हाँ,
या जो भी अच्छी डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज हैं, you will feel that you're watching a film.
yes. For me, that's
And
important.
truth is stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
And truth is more interesting than fiction.
Oh, yes. Oh,
So
yes.
do you think that this is the escapism mentality of the audiences that takes them, besides the fact, of course, they need to be well made, because although Nalini felt that there is a lot to be desired, मुझे ये documentary, I thought it was very, very well made because of the way the unraveling of the plot happens, the way the shots are taken, the way they're interspersed, the information is interspersed. Just when you feel as an audience you want to know more of a specific information, that information comes in at the right time, which means the screenplay also seems to be perfectly fine. Of course, when you have a documentary spreading over 4 episodes or 5 episodes, there is going to be a lull somewhere or the other, and it happens even in feature films, even in entertainment. They say that before the storm is the calm. There is bound to be a little lull, and I can give that. But personally, I thought this documentary is extremely well made, and I've seen a lot of other documentaries also. The information in the documentary is so enticing that it holds your attention. And I've always stated, always, that content comes first, the technique comes later. If you have the right content, it doesn't matter what technique you use, people will hear it. If you do not have a strong content, you can do the best you want technically, it will still not hold attention.
Before we end, I'd just like to say that true crime documentaries, actually, they interest me, and I have seen quite a few. If there's a emotional thread running through it, because the crime is so horrific, I think what I found missing in this, I was emotionally involved because all my memories and, I went to 81 Richmond Road and I've seen it from outside, and that's why I was invested in it. But if you look at the way the daughter has been spoken to and, her bits, even those two beautiful women from her family, they're so well turned out. They're speaking so beautifully. They're looking like $100. But where was the emotion? इस आदमी ने तो था ही नहीं वैसे भी जिसने ये सब किया. So it was very clinical. I think something about this documentary was clinical. The horrifying thing was when they tell you, when the voiceover and everything, or the cops voiceovers are telling you that how he showed you what he did. Otherwise, I think there was an emotional thread which was missing from the family's point of view. Maybe that's why, as a documentary,
No.
yeah, I felt.
Yeah, so I don't completely agree with it, simply because, you know what, I don't come from Bangalore. I must have spent very, very little time in Bangalore, or as Bangalore as it is called now. And I had never heard of this story. I had never heard of this family before. I did not know what what conspiracy took place at that point of time. Despite that, I was emotionally invested and connected with what happened to the family. And I'm now, although you were part of the city and it must have happened in your and in around your times, I was nowhere around. And from a third person point of view, where I'm actually a third person who's completely disconnected from all events and the geographic location, if it still holds my attention, that means there is something right about it.
Yeah, no, sure, of course. If you felt that way, that's great. So, Saurabh, do you have any last thoughts before we end this?
I had 2-3 points.
Please, yes, go ahead, Yeah.
One is the most saddest part. So I was engaged with this show because of Shakereh, what happened to her.
Yeah.
And the most saddest part, I almost felt emotional while watching, was
Yeah.
the way she had her burial.
Yeah. Oh God.
She was refused in that masjid,
Yes.
and later the servant shows where she's buried.
Yeah.
That was the most
Oh my
difficult
God.
That
thing
was
to watch.
heartbreaking. Like I said, it was, she didn't get anything. She didn't get a prayer. She'd got nothing from them. So that's why I'm saying, there's whatever
The
it is.
only prayer she got, the only hymn she got was her own voice.
Yeah. And luckily that is preserved. Oh, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Really, that is heartbreaking, Saurabh. Yeah, really. I mean, which family would not want to give her a proper burial after everything that she's gone through? I mean, see, look again. Her daughter is very much there, right? Her daughter could have insisted that she got a decent burial.
Yeah, she didn't get the burial site at the
She
family
didn't get
ground.
the site. She didn't get a namaz. She didn't get a prayer.
You know,
So how come the daughter was so worried about her and all of this, and there was nothing, so that's where it's very scary. Angie, continue, Saurabh.
this is where I sort of come to the today's world where we are talking about how everybody needs to be very compassionate and needs to be understanding. So the reason why she didn't get a burial site, and it's what I got to understand, is because she went and married somebody outside the faith, and that is why the property cases also came in, because the mother said, now since you're ostracized and you've gone out of our family and our society and married outside your faith, these properties also will not come to you, it will come back to me. And now you wonder, where is the compassion gone when you want to see the entire globe as a global village per se?
Yeah, one more thing I observed in this documentary that reminded me of Silence of the Lambs.
Hmm.
And the thing is, the way they were showing the point of view shots of this guy. So if you see Silence of the Lambs,
Hmm.
when Hannibal Lecter was introduced, and
Hmm.
when he's talking with Jodie Foster, you will
Hmm.
feel that he's addressing the audience.
Hmm.
Though it's not breaking the fourth wall technique,
Hmm.
but the way the camera is blocked, way he is positioned, the actor is positioned, the same way this guy is also positioned in the documentary.
Yeah.
उसकी हैवानियत दिखाने के लिए मुझे लगता है वो शॉट है.
So मैं actually इस पे आना चाह रहा था. I just wanted to know whether it was only me or did you all see the same thing? Did you feel that his eyes were piercing? And
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
I think this is where the filmmaker scores big time. Apart from the fact that yes, he's been able to get into the soul of the murderer, and he's also been able to extract the soul of the victim. This is the victory of the filmmaker, to have transposed or transferred the energy of what is happening over there into the audiences or the viewers of the event. ये जो साइलेंस और पॉज था ना, ऐसा ही पॉज था जब वो सीरीज खत्म हुआ और मैं चुप करके देख रहा था. There was a silence in the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
damn.
No, that end was Saurabh, आशु जी, मैंने तो बात की थी इसके बारे में, but really उस वक्त दिल एकदम टुकड़े टुकड़े हो गया, I mean, the lady is gone, she's no more, but I mean, please, for God's sakes, and that place is still there. How can people live with themselves if they can't give her a proper send off, whatever was remaining of her? How can you live with yourself? Is my thought. The daughters, the husband, the aunts who were professing so much love for her and said, oh, nothing should have, she was this, she was lively, she was beautiful, she was always smiling, she was. कहाँ जाता है प्यार? कहाँ जाता है?
And then dance on the grave.
And dance on the grave. I don't think our family was doing anything else, literally. I'm sorry, but that was my feeling, and like Saurabh said, I was a little irritated. I didn't find it boring, but I was a little irritated that so much time was being given by Patrick Graham to this man to tell a story which anyways nobody's going to believe. I don't think anyone, except for that one lawyer who's paid to defend him. It's just not possible that, and this is the only I'm not going to call him a gentleman. He has not been given even one single day's parole, not one
And
single.
he's still asking for mercy petition.
Yes. mercy petition, and he's not getting
And
it. Not one.
interestingly, he filed a case on this documentary also.
Oh, where did you read that?
Yes,
I didn't know that. Acha, I didn't know that.
he filed a complaint, defamation complaint, I guess,
Oh,
on
really?
this
I
document.
didn't know that. Acha, so his lawyer did it for him, obviously.
Obviously. अरे क्योंकि ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री निकलेगा तो उसको मर्सी पिटीशन नहीं मिलेगा ना.
Ha. Saurabh, was it the same lawyer who they've shown in the documentary, or that lawyer must be really old now? No.
I don't know. Like, I think this is the lawyer, but who filed the complaint, I don't know. But I just read the headline saying that this guy has complained a file against the makers of Dancing on the Grave.
I see.
So how I would like to end this is I would urge the listeners also to please watch Dancing on the Grave and let us know, write to us about what you feel about it, and do you think you carry the same feeling as we do, or do you have a contrary point of view? We would love to hear your point of view as well. And I think we should see more documentaries, whether it's crime related or otherwise, because there are so many facts that are hidden that are enticing and can be really, really interesting.
Yeah. So, Saurabh, your last words, and then I'll end.
Yeah, so my words are only that if you are a true docu-series fan, then only you watch this show, because it's a very difficult watch. So I will just recommend that whoever have this habit to watch these kind of series, then only you watch. And do follow our podcast also, Diamond Dozen Films. We have these interesting discussions. So this is the first time we are discussing on a documentary. We generally discuss about films and web series. So I hope that you will like this episode too.
Yes, thank you, Saurabh. And to all our listeners, we really hope you like this episode. The reason why we did this is because this is a true crime and it really touched all of us and shocked us also. And it has just released. So, like Saurabh said rightly, if you like docudramas, true crime docudramas, then do watch it and let us know what you feel. And thank you to all our listeners for all their support, for all the time that you've been with us. We hope we don't disappoint you now or in the future. And we will bring lots more interesting content. We have a new episode out already. Hopefully, you've seen that or heard that by the time this is out. The new episode that we've just put up is something very interesting and fun, and on much lighter note than what we're discussing here. It's about double roles and our cinema, and how double roles are so fascinating. And also in that podcast, you will be able to hear some technical information about how this was shot, which will make it very interesting for people, because Ashuji has shared all his technical knowledge with us. And on that note, we will say good night to all our listeners. Thank you for being with us. Good night, Ashuji. Good night, Saurabh. Till the next time.
Yes, I'd like to say goodbye to everybody all around the globe listening to us. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this, and until the next time.